Thank you for joining us today on the Healing Us podcast. Today we're joined by Sydney Pentland, who is a breathwork expert. And during the pandemic, Sydney found this amazing tool to help her deal with burnout and anxiety. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I'm so
welcome.
excited to be here.
We're really excited to hear your story. And I know a lot of people that have experienced your classes and things like that and just have rave reviews. So
thank you.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what led you to discover breathwork specifically as a healing modality.
Yeah, so it was around the pandemic. I just had a baby. I was a few months postpartum, and I decided to take the big brave step of leaving an abusive marriage. And it was in the middle of the pandemic as well, so just a dog pile of
in between
circumstances.
Just baby, but then throw in pandemic.
A lot of transitions happening. And professionally, before I started doing breathwork and having my own business, I was a social worker program manager for nonprofits. Okay. So I was dealing directly with the public while they were going through tremendous grief and suffering, with health conditions and rental assistance and things like that. So I really got a bird's eye view on the mental health crisis that was happening at that time, and vicariously absorbing that as well. And it reached a point physically where I just burnt out.
Understandably. I mean, one of those things would be too much for the average human. So the fact that you're handling all of them simultaneously, good for you, and good for you for taking that step to, work on yourself and create a safe environment. Had you tried like other modalities of healing, like, meditation or yoga? Like, were you trying a bunch of different stuff and breathwork just clicked, or was that kind of the first thing?
No, so I was in therapy, like talk therapy for the duration of that time, and doing yoga. And I was very mindful, generally trying to eat well. I was vegan at that time, meditating, just trying to do my best. But regardless of that, it was just kind of like I was just hitting a brick wall, and my body just got to a point, once you reach that burnout level, your body is going to stop you in its tracks, and it's going to yell at you until you listen. So burnout was a host of different like somatic symptoms that I was regularly going to the doctor for and seeing specialist after specialist, taking test after test, and they're all coming back to me saying, you're healthy as a horse, but you may just be dealing with stress, and gave me a pat on the back and a prescription for Xanax. And I didn't want to be in that space.
And thank God you had the strength to do that, because that's where most people fall off, right? Because that's most medical doctors, that's their resolution is, here, take this, you'll feel better. And you might for a very short period of time. And then that's going to be like, you're going to be dependent on that pill, right?
Right. Yeah. And growing up, I had seen that so much. It was not new to me what Xanax was. And I'd seen a lot of my friends growing up suffering from addiction and, either being successful in their recovery or not, right? And I just didn't want to risk taking that path, but knowing that I needed the support, I just kind of found breathwork through happenstance. I think it was Instagram.
I was going to say, how did you, so we were just talking before we started filming about my first experience and kind of not really tiptoeing in. I was thrown into like a very advanced course.
Right.
How did you come across it and like decide to like, my hardest thing with wellness personally is like finding something I really like and then committing to that dedication and like that the commitment, right? That like nothing is going to stop me from doing this today, period.
Right.
So how did you first find it?
I first found it, I believe the account is called The Reconnected, and it's these two fabulous women who work with parents on co-regulation with their children. So kind of like gentle parenting, but with solid tools to be able to do that. And I think that the they were offering a free workshop to their followers. So I just signed on just to try it. Because I'm like, I'm willing to try anything at this point to try to find some relief, because the anxiety was really debilitating. Having a lot of like insomnia and like digestive issues and chronic fatigue and chronic pain. Like it's just nonstop. When your body's really trying to get your attention, it's going to throw everything at you, and mine certainly was. So I signed up for this free workshop, and it was so simple, almost too simple. Like they just put on some meditative music and they just guided me through a breath pattern for a couple of minutes. And it was magic. I can't describe it. It was just absolutely magic. And I remember coming out of that meditation, just a couple of minutes too, like it wasn't intensive, and just feeling a wave of relief. And I just dove in. I'm like, I just need to know more about this. And the more I learned about it, the more I learned how stress is a physiological response. It's not just a mental overload. That's a symptom of it. We have a whole nervous system that influences our health, our physical health, our mental health. And a lot of these somatic symptoms are the result of an overload of stress hormones in your body, namely adrenaline and cortisol. And you can follow a map internally on how these things are going to start to affect you, what symptoms may come up, and then how you can resolve that using different breathing patterns, reducing those stress hormones, inducing other more helpful hormones like melatonin to help you sleep, and serotonin to keep you happy, dopamine to keep you motivated. So,
and natural hormones, like things you can mix in and tap into that your body naturally produces, but you're not really capitalizing on it.
Right. So,
because all that gets so depleted the minute that your stress triggers, or I remember cortisol. I work with a functional medicine doctor quite a lot, and they measure all these levels, and cortisol, my whole family goes to him. So everybody's cortisol level in some way was either too high or too low. And like when we leveled that out, it's crazy the amount of energy you have all day, how you're able to just better handle challenges mentally and physically. So I totally get everything you're saying. It's so interesting. So you did the online course. It was online, right? Virtual course? Yep. Okay, cool. And then what was kind of your next steps? Because I find the internet to be so overwhelming, where it's like you can learn 1,000 things. You could either take it 0 to 1,000 on, you know what I mean, on something as specific as breath work. So what was your kind of your next steps after that?
Well, through the meditations that I was doing, I was just getting, and it may sound silly, but I was getting these downloads, these visions of how I could utilize this, and professionally. I found an instant application with this in the nonprofit world, because there is such a lack of mental health services available through nonprofits, and unless they're specified for that, and there are some, and that's great. And Healing Us is so fabulous because you guys do so much to incorporate that within. But for the social workers, right? We're absorbing so much vicarious trauma, and our workloads in and of themselves are so stressful. I wanted to hop the fence and become a vendor and a consultant for nonprofits and businesses, schools, to be able to implement this within their services for clients and their audiences, but also internally, so that wellness is taken much more holistically, seriously within these spaces.
And not just like using the word holistic, because we deal with that a lot. I'm sure you do too in the social work space, where it's like we have a holistic approach, but do you really? Yeah,
it's a buzzword.
It's a buzzword. So you developed Vital Breathwork, which is your company. So tell me a little bit about what services, like what are you doing now with it? What's your vision for how do you want to spread breathwork, or somatic breathwork specifically that you focus on? Tell me a little bit about Vital.
So Vital has been growing over the past year. We're fairly new. It's my baby, but I am using that network that I previously had working in those spaces and kind of walking back and reintroducing myself in this way, and working with directors, working with their client service team, with implementing these strategies within the office. Because it's one thing to intellectualize all of this, but it's another thing to integrate it and implement it within the office. And you don't need to have 40 minutes with a mat, an incense or a candle, a sound. You don't need all of that. You can utilize these tools right where you are, right when you need them, in bite-sized portions to be able to really facilitate change. And it's been overwhelming how positive the changes have been that I've seen within different agencies, because people are relearning what control they have over their mental health, because we get gaslit out of not taking care of ourselves, because in these spaces particularly, we are helpers for other people. We are advocates for other people. So we don't really take a lot of time to check in with ourselves and feel, how are we feeling right here in this moment? What do we need in this moment to take care of ourselves? And then how can that optimize the services that we're then presenting to other people?
Yeah, and I think it's really hard for people right now, because even the internet, as great as it is, because there's so many tools and resources and podcasts and this and that, it can be really overwhelming and contradictory too. I don't know about you, but like my feed is always full of like different quotes and things like that. And you'll read one and then you'll read the next one. You're like, wait, that just goes against like what this one, but they both resonate. Like which one do I listen to? And you can get really stuck in that loop. And I think a lot of people do. So it's nice to have like a specific thing like Vital Breathwork or meditation, whatever you resonate with, that you can connect to. So what Vital is specifically doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're going into nonprofits or areas where there's social workers and educators, schools, teachers, and you're giving them the tools to have this self-care regulation that they can do on their own time. They don't need to, dedicate an hour a day. Most people don't have. That's what you're doing right now.
Yep. So what I mainly teach is nervous system regulation. And then there's tools that we use. So breath work being one of them, or somatic exercises being another one. And I'm giving you an education on your nervous system. So how it works, what's influencing it, right? So not just making mindfulness this thing that you do when you close your eyes and you sit still, but mindfulness as a lifestyle, as a life skill, so that you're able to monitor and maintain mindfulness throughout your day, and not just within that chunk of time that you allotted yourself that feels like a chore. Because that's what a lot of people feel, is that rolling out that mat and showing up for yourself is just another thing on your plate that you have to do, instead of fitting it in throughout your day where you can find that mindfulness. So as I was waiting for you, as everybody was setting up, I'm doing my box breathing, right? Like I'm putting myself into a space, but was I on a mat? Was I doing anything extra? You didn't even realize that I was doing it. So that's such a powerful tool that you can have that can help you maintain calm and focus as you're setting up for a meeting, as you're preparing for a test, as you're in the middle of a heated conversation and you just want to keep your cool, right? So then that's the integration part and the implementation part that I really try to reteach people.
How did you learn? And just going back to like your postnatal, I'm just going to be specific for a second, as woman to woman, is like, there's so much going on already with becoming a new mom and then becoming a new single mom. Like, how did you prioritize and find the time and the energy and dedication to that, to really learn and study that practice? Did it take a long time, or did you like dive right in during everything that you were going through?
It was a process. We're not perfect people, right? And so healing is not linear. You're going to take a couple steps forward. You're going to take a couple steps back, but that's how you learn how to integrate, right? Is because if you just master it straightforward, then what are you really learning and absorbing and taking with you? So as I was going through all of this, it really felt like survival for me. And I really took it seriously because I saw the immediate effect of it. So it was almost as if I took a pill, right? How quick it was. So it really resonated with me. And the more I did it, the more I felt better, the less I was having all these somatic symptoms. Because let me tell, I looked like I was 9 months pregnant when I was 9 months postpartum.
Wow.
And that's not to say like all our bodies are beautiful, right, at any size, but I was dealing with so much inflammation.
Right.
And it was causing me chronic pain. And I wasn't able to digest my food. And I was like throwing up all the time. And
You're just
but
sick.
I'm eating well. I was just sick. And no matter what the doctors were telling me, it wasn't helping. And this was an intervention that was helping. So the more I learned about it, the more it was clear to me what an advantage this type of practice is. And then when I went to school and I was receiving my certifications for it, and I really became educated on the nervous system and your stress hormones and what impacts that and how it influences your mental and physical health, it was like a full circle moment for me. And like I said, these are tools that you can use 2 minutes at a time, if that, and they have a profound effect. So
what education did you, like, for somebody that's really interested in this and is like, I love it, I want to dive in, what did you do school-wise? You mentioned going back to school. Did you go for like, is that correct or no?
Yeah, well, it's an online school. So
okay.
Soma Breath was the name of the school. Yeah.
Cool.
And the CEO's name is Niraj, and he works with like some of the top names in these influential spaces. So like, I don't know if your audience or you would be familiar with like Tony Robbins and like Mel Robbins, right?
Yeah.
So like that echelon of people, and he teaches them how to utilize breathwork and somatics in their work. So I was like, oh, I know all those big names.
Yeah.
And they do such that like their work is so powerful. And if they find this powerful and helpful within their work, then, you know, there might be something in there for me too.
Yeah.
So I think it was a year and a half. I would take courses and learn about this and be coached by their team and learn how to implement this out. And it's been such a rewarding ride.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm so happy for you. And I'm sure seeing yourself on the other side, it's like, thank God I made that commitment to pursue this however many years ago. And, you know, just seeing the difference in who you are today versus that period of time, I'm sure is massive.
It's become the lens that I see the world with, right? This colors everything that I do. And the mindful, like the self-awareness that I have now keeps me really grounded, no matter what life circumstances I find myself in, and things haven't become less stressful, right? Like I'm still a single mom, and now owning my own business, this has doubled my workload, right? But now I have a full toolkit to be able to manage life.
I feel like you can handle everything, most things.
Yeah, well, you know what your body needs, right? Because it's not always about calming down. It's about being authentic. So when I feel anger, I'm not doing a cool, calming breath, right? I have tools so that when it's appropriate, when I can find time and space for it, I can release that anger with somatic tools. Things that I teach my clients is authentic expression, because you can't gaslight yourself. Yeah. You have feelings and emotions, and they're valid and they're motivating. So whatever you're feeling, if you can read your body's signals, attune to that, and then be able to express it, then you're completing that circle, and your body will find its calm and its grounding on its own. If you're angry and someone tells you to calm down, is that helpful?
No.
Never.
Never helpful.
Never.
I also find what we experience a lot in the mental health treatment space and the addiction treatment space. And I think this generation in general, because of social media and other influences, like people want to be happy all the time. And that's, it's not reality, period. Like even if you're not somebody that struggles with addiction, you're not happy all the time. If you're not someone that struggles with mental health, there's waves of life. Like some days you're happy, some days you're not. You're just as stressed as the next person, right? So I like these tools, and I like talking about these tools on a space like this so that people can discover and learn. And I just think it's really eye-opening, and especially to hear it firsthand. So what is, some words of advice that you would give maybe somebody that was in where you were at 5 years ago? Not the exact situation, but somebody feeling like that, what is something you would say to them?
I would say that your feelings matter, and that they are telling you something, and it's worth it to listen. It's worth it to take the time to go inwards and to figure out how you're feeling and where in your body is feeling it, because that will be the key to where you want to go next and how you want to move forward. And you may find yourself there without doing that, but it's a quicker road to get to where you want to go. And it'll help you to be able to manage from wherever you find yourself at any time. You can ask yourself that question over and over again and find a new answer, because life is always happening to you. And you may change your mind. Your body may change its expression, but you won't be able to know that until you find a moment to just check in with yourself.
That was beautiful. Thank you. And just finally, just to close out here, how can people find you? Can the average Joe do a breathwork session with you? What does that look like with Vital?
Yeah, so I do private sessions. I'm in schools and classrooms, so you can hire me to work with your children or your class. You can hire me to work with me privately or book a group with me. And I also do professional development, so I work with staff as well. So I do a little bit of everything.
Awesome.
I do a lot of volunteer work too. So if anybody would like to get in touch with me for any of those services, they can find me online at vitalbreathworkllc.com, or you can check me out on Instagram, where I talk about a whole bunch of stuff regarding breathwork and somatics, and that's the handle is Vital Breathwork.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming, and congratulations on just your journey and everything you've built.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a wonderful experience.
Don't forget to like and follow, and thank you for joining us today on Healing Us.